Admiral James stood motionless before the massive display screen in Earth's Defense Command Center, his weathered face illuminated by the pulsing red dots that shouldn't have been there. The Deep Space Monitoring System had never shown anything like this before. Hundreds of objects, moving in perfect formation, just beyond Pluto's orbit. "How long have they been there?" he asked, his voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. "We first detected them 3 hours ago, sir," replied Lieutenant Walker from his station. "They appeared suddenly, as if they dropped out of some kind of faster-than-light travel. The energy readings are off the charts." The Admiral clasped his hands behind his back, studying the formation. After 30 years in Earth's defense forces, he had run countless simulations of first contact scenarios. None of them had looked quite like this. The objects were arranged in a perfect arrow formation, a clear sign of intelligent design and military precision. "Wake up, everyone," he ordered. "I want all Defense Council members in the war room in 1 hour, and get me direct links to every major military command center on Earth." The command center erupted into controlled chaos as officers rushed to carry out his orders. Admiral James remained still, watching as more data streamed in from Earth's network of space telescopes. The objects were massive, the smallest ones larger than anything humanity had ever launched into space, and the largest was the size of a small moon. Exactly 58 minutes later, Admiral James stood before the assembled Defense Council in the war room. The faces on the massive screens surrounding them showed military leaders from every major nation on Earth. Some looked like they had just woken up, others were clearly in the middle of their working day, but all wore the same grave expression. "Ladies and gentlemen," the Admiral began, "at 300 hours Universal Time, our deep space monitoring systems detected a large fleet of artificial objects entering our solar system." He gestured, and a 3D hologram appeared in the center of the room, showing the fleet's position and formation. "Based on their size, organization, and method of arrival, we can only conclude that we are looking at an alien fleet. We are no longer alone in the universe, and our first contact appears to be with a highly advanced military force." The room erupted in multiple languages as the reality of the situation sank in. Admiral James let them talk for a moment before raising his hand for silence. "Our preliminary analysis suggests their technology is far beyond our current capabilities. The energy readings from their drives alone indicate they could probably reduce our entire planet to ash if they wanted to." He paused, letting that sink in. "However, they haven't made any aggressive moves yet. They're holding position just beyond Pluto's orbit, which suggests they're either being cautious or showing respect for our territory." "What are our options?" asked General Roberts from the American command. "Right now, we observe and we prepare," James replied. "We've activated the Sentinel Protocol. All military forces worldwide are quietly moving to high alert, but we're keeping it off the news to prevent panic. Our deep space listening posts are monitoring all frequencies for any attempt at communication." As if on cue, Lieutenant Walker's voice came through the room's speakers. "Admiral, we're picking up a transmission. It's being broadcast on all frequencies, directed specifically at Earth." James nodded. "Put it through." The hologram in the center of the room changed, showing a strange symbol that looked like a stylized spiral galaxy. A deep voice spoke in perfect English, followed by repetitions in other major Earth languages. "To the governing authorities of the planet designated as Earth, we are representatives of the Galactic Empire, the ruling authority of over 10,000 inhabited worlds. Our scans indicate you have achieved basic spaceflight capabilities and energy manipulation technology. As per Imperial Protocol 7249, you are hereby notified of our intention to incorporate your world into the Empire. Prepare your leaders to receive our embassy. Further instructions will follow." The transmission ended, leaving the room in dead silence. Admiral James looked around at the shocked faces of Earth's military leadership. "Well," he said grimly, "it seems they've made their intentions clear. The question is, What are we going to do about it? The red dots on the tactical display continued their ominous pulsing, marking humanity's first step into a much larger and more dangerous universe. The next day, screens around the world flickered to life with the same broadcast. The Empire had decided that all of humanity should witness their message. Admiral James watched from the Defense Command Center as the transmission began. A tall figure appeared on screen. The alien looked almost human, except for its gray skin and completely black eyes. It wore an elaborate uniform covered in what looked like military medals. This was Commander Marcus of the Imperial Fleet. People of Earth, the alien spoke in that same perfect English as before. I am Imperial Commander Marcus. What I am about to show you is not meant to frighten, but to educate. The screen split to show another planet, one that looked similar to Earth with blue oceans and green continents. This was the world of Kepler-4, 3 solar cycles ago. They, like you, thought they could resist Imperial rule. The image changed. The beautiful planet was now nothing but fire and ash, its oceans boiling away into space. Admiral James heard several gasps from his staff. This, Commander Marcus continued, showing another world, was Centauri Prime. They had technology far more advanced than yours. The image shifted again to show another dead world. They also refused our generous offer. Lieutenant Walker leaned close to Admiral James. Sir, this is being broadcast everywhere. Television, radio, internet. They've completely taken over our communications. The Admiral nodded grimly. They want to make sure everyone sees this. Classic intimidation tactics. Commander Marcus appeared again. The Galactic Empire brings order, prosperity, and protection to all its member worlds. We ask for only 3 things in return: loyalty, resources, and obedience. His black eyes seemed to stare directly at the viewers. Your world has been chosen to join our great empire. This is an honor. Thousands of planets serve under our banner. They live in peace and enjoy technologies beyond your imagination. The screen showed images of incredible cities on alien worlds, floating buildings, ships that could fold space, medical technology that seemed like magic. However, Marcus's voice grew harder. Resistance will not be tolerated. You have seen the price of defiance. Your weapons are primitive. Your defenses are meaningless. Your entire military force could not stop even one of our smallest ships. To prove his point, the transmission showed a small Imperial fighter destroying an entire fleet of warships on some distant world. You have 48 of your Earth hours to respond. Send your acceptance, and we will begin the integration process. Your people will be protected. Your leaders will maintain local control under Imperial guidance. Your scientists will gain access to Imperial knowledge. The alien commander paused, his expression growing stern. Choose to resist, and Earth will serve as an example to others who might question Imperial authority. There will be no second chances, no negotiations. Accept Imperial rule or face extinction. The transmission cut to a countdown clock showing 48:00, then ended. In the Defense Command Center, Admiral James turned to face the assembled world leaders on his screens. Well, that was direct enough. General Roberts spoke first. They're not bluffing about their capabilities. Did you see the data readings during that transmission? The power required to override every communication system on Earth simultaneously. They could have attacked already, added another general. This show of force, these threats, they're giving us a chance to surrender without a fight. Admiral James walked to the center of the room. They expect us to be intimidated, to give up without resistance like so many others before us. He looked at each face on the screens, but they don't know humanity. We've spent our entire history fighting against those who would rule us through fear. What can we possibly do against that kind of power? Someone asked. A slight smile appeared on the Admiral's face. Get me a secure line to Project Prometheus. It's time to show the Empire that humanity isn't as primitive as they think. As the others rushed to comply, James looked at the countdown clock now displayed on one of their screens. 47 hours and counting. In less than 2 days, humanity would either become slaves to an alien empire, or they would make a stand that would change the galaxy forever. The Empire thought they were dealing with simple, primitive beings who would bow to superior force. They were about to learn just how wrong they were. Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, Admiral James stepped out of the elevator into a facility that officially didn't exist. Project Prometheus had been humanity's best-kept secret for the past 30 years. The guards saluted as he walked past rows of laboratories and testing chambers. Dr. Thomas met him at the main research floor. The head scientist looked tired, his white lab coat wrinkled from too many hours of work. "I saw the Empire's message," he said, leading the Admiral through security doors. 45 hours left now. I assume you're here about the device." "Show me everything," James replied. "The world leaders are meeting in 2 hours to discuss surrender terms. I need to know if we have another option." They entered a massive circular chamber. In the center, surrounded by countless sensors and machines, sat what looked like a simple silver sphere about the size of a basketball. Dr. Thomas walked over to a control panel. 30 years ago, he began, a small alien ship crashed in the desert. Everyone thought we got nothing useful from it. The technology was too advanced, too different from anything we knew. But we found something far more valuable than technology. He pressed a few buttons, and screens lit up around them. We found their research data. Admiral James watched as diagrams and equations filled the screens. What exactly are we looking at? The ship belonged to a species that was fighting against the Empire. They were losing badly, but they had discovered something incredible. Dr. Thomas's eyes lit up with excitement. They found a way to break reality itself. He pointed to the silver sphere. "This is the Prometheus device. It doesn't just destroy things. It unmakes them. It breaks down the bonds between atoms, between the particles that make up atoms, between the very fabric of space and time." "And it works?" James asked. "Better than we ever imagined." Dr. Thomas pulled up video footage. "This was our test last month on an asteroid in the Kuiper Belt." The video showed a similar silver sphere approaching a large asteroid. There was a brief flash of light, and then the asteroid didn't explode. It didn't break apart. It simply ceased to exist, leaving behind a sphere of completely empty space where even the stars weren't visible. The device creates a field that breaks down all matter and energy within its range. Dr. Thomas explained. "Nothing survives. No debris. No radiation. Nothing. Just a perfect void that takes weeks to fill back in." James stared at the footage. "How many of these devices do we have?" "We've built 12. They're positioned throughout the solar system, hidden where the Empire's scans won't find them." The scientist pulled up a map showing their locations. "Each one has enough power to take out a significant portion of their fleet. And the void effect. Can their ships escape it once it starts?" Dr. Thomas shook his head. "Nothing we've tested has been able to escape the field once it forms. Not even light can pass through it. Based on the data we found, not even their advanced ships would be able to resist it." Admiral James walked closer to the device. "The species that invented this, what happened to them?" "According to the records, they were about to use it against the Empire's homeworld when they were discovered. They chose to destroy their own planet rather than let the weapon fall into Imperial hands." Dr. Thomas's voice grew quiet. "They believed some prices were too high to pay for survival." James nodded slowly. "And now we have the same choice to make." "There's one more thing you should know," Dr. Thomas added. "The devices are linked. If we have to use them, we can trigger them all at once. Nothing in the solar system would survive." The Admiral was silent for a long moment. "So that's our option. Submit to Imperial rule, or be prepared to destroy everything, including ourselves, to stop them." "Sometimes the best weapon is one you never have to fire," Dr. Thomas said. "Just proving we have it might be enough." James checked his watch. 44 hours until the Empire's deadline. Prepare the footage of the asteroid test. Make it very clear what the device can do. It's time to send the Empire a message of our own." As he turned to leave, he looked one last time at the silver sphere. Such a small thing, to hold the fate of two civilizations in its grasp. Humanity had grown up believing they were alone in the universe. Now, in less than 2 days, they would either become slaves or prove themselves to be one of the most dangerous species in the galaxy. The choice ahead was impossible. But then, humanity had always been good at doing the impossible. 24 hours had passed since the Empire's ultimatum. In the Defense Command Center, Admiral James stood before the assembled world leaders, both present and on screens. The room was silent as they watched the final cut of humanity's response to the Empire. "This is the message we're about to send," he said. "Once it's transmitted, there's no going back." The video began playing on the main screen. It started simply, a view of Earth from space, beautiful and blue. A calm voice spoke over the image. "To Commander Marcus and the Galactic Empire, we have received your offer to join the Empire. We have seen your displays of power. We have watched your demonstrations of what happens to those who refuse imperial rule. Now, we ask you to watch carefully what we're about to show you." The scene changed to the test footage from Project Prometheus. The silver sphere floated in space, approaching the massive asteroid. Several data points appeared on screen, showing the asteroid's size and mass. "What you're about to witness happened 2 weeks ago in the Kuiper Belt," the voice continued. "Please observe carefully." The device activated. The flash of light came, and then the void appeared, a perfect sphere of nothingness that consumed the asteroid. The video paused, then showed the event from multiple angles. Data scrolled across the screen, displaying readings that even the Empire's scientists would understand. "This is not a weapon of destruction," the voice explained. "This is a weapon of unmaking. It doesn't destroy matter. It breaks down the fundamental forces that hold reality together. Nothing survives within its field. Nothing can escape once the reaction begins." The scene shifted to show a map of Earth's solar system. 12 points of light began blinking at different locations. "We have placed 12 of these devices throughout our solar system. Each one is ready to activate on our command. Each one is powerful enough to unmake a significant portion of your fleet. All of them together." The voice paused meaningfully. "Well, we're not entirely sure what would happen if we activated them all at once. Our scientists believe it might tear apart the fabric of space-time itself within our entire solar system." Admiral James watched the faces of the world leaders as the message continued. Some looked afraid, others proud, but all understood the gravity of what they were about to do. "We do not make this revelation as a threat, but as a warning. Humanity does not wish to join your empire. We do not wish to fight. We simply wish to be left alone." However, the screen showed the void effect one more time, in slow motion. "If you force this confrontation, we will not hesitate. We will not surrender. And we will not allow Earth to become another example in your future conquest speeches." The video shifted back to the view of Earth. "You have shown us what happens to worlds that resist and fail. We are showing you what happens to fleets that might try to conquer us. The choice is yours, Commander. You have 24 hours to withdraw your forces from our solar system. After that, we will interpret any Imperial presence as an act of war, and we will respond accordingly." The message ended, and the room remained silent for several long moments. General Roberts spoke first. "If they call our bluff." "It's not a bluff," Admiral James said firmly. "Every word in that message is true. And if they push us," he looked around the room, "we all know what has to be done." The President of the United States stood up. "Send it. Let's show the galaxy that humanity won't bow to threats, no matter how powerful our opponent might be." One by one, the world leaders nodded their agreement. Admiral James turned to Lieutenant Walker. "Transmit the message on all frequencies. Make sure they can't miss it." As the lieutenant worked, James walked to the window, looking up at the sky. Somewhere up there, the Empire's fleet waited, probably expecting Earth's surrender. Instead, they were about to learn a lesson that countless others throughout human history had learned the hard way. Sometimes the most dangerous opponent isn't the one with the biggest army, but the one with nothing left to lose, and the will to prove it. The message was sent. Now all humanity could do was wait, and prepare for whatever came next. Commander Marcus stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching Earth's message for the 10th time. In 1,000 years of imperial expansion, no primitive species had ever dared to respond like this. His gray skin had turned several shades paler. "Play it again," he ordered. "Focus on the weapon test." The massive screen showed the silver sphere and the vanishing asteroid once more. Behind him, the Imperial War Council sat in uncomfortable silence. 20 of the Empire's highest-ranking military commanders had gathered for this emergency session. "Our scientists have confirmed it," said Admiral Rex, the oldest member of the council. "The readings are real. Whatever that device is, it's unlike anything in our database." Another commander, his uniform decorated with conquest medals, slammed his fist on the table. "They're primitives. They barely have spaceflight. How could they develop something we've never seen?" "Perhaps," Marcus said quietly, "we should be asking how many other secrets they're hiding." He turned to face the council. "The devices are perfectly positioned. If they activate all 12 at once, the damage to spacetime could make this entire system impassable for centuries." The ship's tactical display showed the estimated positions of Earth's weapons, along with probability calculations for various attack scenarios. Every simulation ended the same way, with unacceptable losses for the Empire. "We can't just withdraw," said one of the younger commanders. "No primitive world has ever forced the Empire to retreat. If word of this spreads, other worlds might think they can resist too." Admiral Rex rose slowly from his seat. "And if we attack and fail, if these humans actually use their weapons, what message would that send? The Empire's greatest fleet, destroyed by a primitive species." The room erupted in arguments. Some demanded immediate attack, believing Earth was bluffing. Others insisted on retreat, unwilling to risk their ships against an unknown weapon. A few suggested bombing the planet from a safe distance, but the tactical display showed that Earth's devices could reach far beyond any safe bombing range. "Enough." Commander Marcus's voice cut through the chaos. "We have confirmation from our advanced probes. They've detected intense energy readings from all 12 locations shown in their message. The humans are not bluffing." He walked to the tactical display, pointing at Earth. "Look at their response. They didn't beg. They didn't negotiate. They simply showed us what they could do and told us to leave." His black eyes narrowed. "This is not how primitive species behave. We've conquered thousands of worlds, and none of them acted like this." "What are you suggesting?" asked Admiral Rex. "I'm suggesting we badly misread these humans. We judged them by their technology level. But look at their history." Marcus brought up the data their scouts had gathered. "They've spent their entire existence fighting each other, advancing from spears to nuclear weapons in just a few thousand years. Every time they faced extinction, they found a way to survive. And now they're ready to destroy their own solar system rather than submit," Admiral Rex finished. "Just like the Centauri should have done." The old admiral's voice carried a hint of admiration. The room grew quiet as the implications sank in. The Empire had classified Earth as a primitive world based on their limited space technology, but they had somehow developed a weapon that could tear reality apart, and they were fully prepared to use it. Commander Marcus looked at the countdown timer. 10 hours remained until Earth's deadline. "We have two choices," he said. "We can gamble everything on an attack, hoping we can somehow stop all 12 devices before they activate. Or we can withdraw," said Admiral Rex, "and mark this system as too dangerous to approach." The council chamber erupted in discussion again, but Marcus had already made his decision. In all his years of conquest, he had learned one vital lesson. There were some enemies not worth fighting, and some victories not worth the cost. He opened a channel to the fleet. The Empire would need to adapt its expansion protocols. Sometimes, it seemed, the most primitive-looking worlds could hide the deadliest surprises. 5 hours remained until Earth's deadline. In bunkers and command centers around the world, humanity prepared for whatever might come. Admiral James walked through the Defense Command Center, where officers monitored both the Imperial fleet and the status of the Prometheus devices. "Any movement from the Empire?" he asked Lieutenant Walker. "No, sir. Their ships are still in formation beyond Pluto's orbit." Walker paused, checking his readings. "But they've launched hundreds of small probes. They're scanning everything." James nodded. The Empire was likely trying to find a weakness, a way to neutralize the devices before they could activate. He knew they wouldn't find one. Dr. Thomas and his team had thought of everything. The Admiral made his way to the main conference room, where the emergency broadcast system was being prepared. If these were humanity's final hours, everyone deserved to know why. He looked at the speech on his tablet one last time, then nodded to the technicians. "Begin transmission." Screens around the world came to life. In homes, offices, and public spaces, people stopped to watch as Admiral James appeared before them. "Citizens of Earth," he began, his voice steady and clear. "By now, you've all seen the Empire's message. You know they want our world, our resources, our obedience. You've seen what they do to planets that resist them." The Admiral paused, letting his words sink in. "What you don't know is that humanity has prepared for this day. 30 years ago, we discovered something that changed everything. We found a way to defend ourselves against even the most powerful enemies." Behind him, screens showed the Prometheus device test footage. Gasps could be heard in the command center as people around the world witnessed their secret weapon for the first time. "We have placed these devices throughout our solar system. If the Empire forces our hand, we can ensure they never threaten another world again." His expression grew more serious. "But the cost would be enormous. Using these weapons would likely destroy everything within our solar system, including Earth itself." The room was completely silent now. In homes and public spaces around the world, billions of people held their breath. "We have given the Empire a choice. Leave us in peace, or face consequences beyond their imagination. In 4 hours, we will know their decision." James straightened his shoulders. "I know this news is frightening. The idea that our world might end today is terrifying. But I want you all to understand something important." He stepped closer to the camera. "Throughout human history, we have faced impossible odds. We have stared into the abyss of extinction many times. Each time, we survived not because we were stronger or faster, but because we refused to submit. We refused to let fear rule us." In cities around the world, people gathered in streets and squares, watching on giant screens. Children sat close to their parents. Strangers held hands. Humanity stood together, waiting to learn their fate. The Empire thinks we're primitive. They expect us to bow down before their superior technology. But they don't understand what makes humanity special. James's voice grew stronger. "We are not primitive. We are not weak. We are the species that looked at fire and learned to control it. We are the people who saw birds soar and built machines to join them in the sky. We are the civilization that split the atom, reached the moon, and never stopped dreaming of the stars." In the command center, officers stood straighter at their posts. On screens worldwide, faces showed not fear, but determination. "If the Empire withdraws, we will continue our journey to the stars in peace. But if they attack—" He paused, his eyes fierce. "If they attack, we will show them that humanity would rather die free than live as slaves. We will show them that Earth is not just another primitive world to be conquered. We will show them that sometimes the most dangerous weapon isn't the biggest ship or the strongest army. It's the absolute determination to remain free, no matter the cost." As he finished speaking, Lieutenant Walker called out, "Sir, we're detecting movement in the Imperial fleet." Admiral James turned away from the camera. Humanity's future would be decided in the next few hours. Whatever happened, they would face it together, united in their stand against the greatest power in the galaxy. The entire world held its breath as they watched the Imperial fleet on their screens. Admiral James stood in the Defense Command Center, his eyes fixed on the massive display showing the enemy ship's movements. "Report," he ordered. Lieutenant Walker's fingers flew across his console. "The fleet is changing formation." "Sir." They're pulling back. All ships are turning away from Earth." A new transmission cut through all Earth's communications. Commander Marcus's gray face appeared on the main screen, his black eyes showing a mix of respect and frustration. "People of Earth," he began, his voice carrying across every speaker on the planet. "In 1,000 years of imperial expansion, no species has ever forced us to reconsider our path of conquest. Until now." The alien commander straightened his uniform. "Your warning has been received and verified. Our scientists confirm that your Prometheus devices possess power we cannot counter. Your willingness to destroy yourselves to deny us victory is—" He paused, searching for the right word. "Impressive." In the command center, people began to smile. Some grabbed each other in hugs. Admiral James kept his face neutral, waiting. "The Empire hereby declares the Sol system a restricted zone. No Imperial ships will enter your space. No attempts will be made to conquer your world." Marcus's expression became stern. "But know this, we will be watching. If you ever try to use the Prometheus device against other worlds, the Empire will respond with full force." "Understood, Commander," Admiral James replied. "As long as Earth is left in peace, we have no desire to use our weapons. We only wish to develop at our own pace, freed from Imperial control." Marcus nodded slowly. "Perhaps we were too quick to judge your species by your level of technology. Any race that can develop such weapons and show such resolve in the face of overwhelming odds deserves respect." The Imperial commander raised his hand in what looked like a salute. "Farewell, humans. I suspect we will meet again someday, when you venture beyond your solar system. I hope that meeting will be more peaceful than this one." The transmission ended. On the tactical display, the Imperial ships began jumping away into faster-than-light travel, their massive forms disappearing one by one into the darkness of space. Lieutenant Walker checked his readings multiple times. "They're gone, sir. All Imperial ships have left our solar system." A cheer went up in the command center. Similar celebrations erupted in cities around the world as people realized they were safe. Humanity had stood against the greatest power in the galaxy, and won. Admiral James finally allowed himself to smile. He opened a channel to Dr. Thomas at Project Prometheus. "They're gone, Doctor. Your device worked perfectly." "Without ever being fired," Dr. Thomas replied. "The best kind of weapon." "Keep the devices active," James ordered. "The Empire may be gone, but others might come. Earth needs to stay protected." Hours later, as the celebrations continued around the world, Admiral James stood in his office with Dr. Thomas, looking out at the night sky. "What happens now?" the scientist asked. James considered the question. "Now we prepare. The Empire knows about us. Other alien civilizations will learn about us too. We need to be ready." "Ready for what? More invasions?" "No," the Admiral smiled. "Ready to join the galactic community, on our own terms." The Empire didn't just see our weapons today. They saw our unity, our determination, our willingness to stand up to anyone who would try to control us. He turned to face the scientist. They saw humanity at its best. Dr. Thomas nodded. "From primitive world to galactic power in one day. Not bad." "We're not a galactic power yet," James corrected him. "But we will be. The Empire gave us something valuable today. Time. Time to develop, to advance, to reach the stars on our own." Above them, the stars twinkled in the night sky. Somewhere out there, the Empire was probably already updating their records about Earth, No longer a primitive world to be conquered, but a dangerous one to be watched. A world that had done the impossible, forced the Empire itself to back down. It was humanity's first step onto the galactic stage. Thanks to the courage of Earth's people and one silver sphere that never had to be used, it wouldn't be their last.